Here we have Mr. Otto's thoracic spine area. And the same holds true in the thoracic area as with the lumbar area, meaning I'm running my fingers along each side to check for possible rotation of one of these thoracic vertebrae. Now, the big difference here is that we have these guys, the ribs, and working the thoracic spine can't be done without working the ribs. And I have other videos where I've talked about rib mechanics and what can happen with ribs, but just keep in mind that as we're working with possibly rotated vertebra in the thoracic area, in this thoracic territory, we also have to palpate and feel for a possible inhalation or exhalation fixation of its corresponding rib. The other thing is, as we start to palpate, and let's say I find a rotation on this vertebra, I can't just work directly across and affect this or try to palpate this rib. What I actually need to do is go across and up and work with the rib that's one notch superiorly, because that's the guy that's relating to this particular vertebra. Here we have the transverse and costal junction here. Don't forget that we also have two areas of connection with ribs and vertebra. You know, we have the costal vertebral, and we have this that's deep in there underneath, and then we have this area with the transverse process and the rib. So keep that in mind. There's a couple of areas of articulation in here. There is a question sometimes if, let's say for example, we have this vertebra, and let's say for example it's left rotated. I'm often asked as a general rule, if it's left rotated, Marty, does that mean that I have to go to the left rib, or does it mean that I have to go to the right rib? Great question. Actually, what I end up doing is going to both sides. Okay, I actually want to palpate both sides and figure out if there is inhalation or exhalation fixation on either one of the ribs. However, I know my patterns, and I know that if, for example, this vertebra is left rotated, I know that more often than not, I will go to the right side first and palpate this particular rib. And I don't have a set rule or law behind it. I think, to me, it has to do with, because this is left rotated, this transverse process ends up being more anterior, sunken in more, and I tend to go to this area to attempt to kind of open it up. Now, I could be going to this area to attempt to help derotate the vertebra, but I know that as a matter of practice, and maybe it's just habit, that I go to this rib first.